President Trump holding court in the Oval Office right now, telling the press that he's pretty much negotiated a deal with Ukraine on rare earth minerals to end the war there, and that Zelensky might be visiting the White House on Friday. He also announced what he's calling gold cards that will get wealthy foreigners to create jobs in America. Meanwhile, could Sleepy Joe ever do this?
And I heard you were here, and I said, let's stop by and say hello. It's a group of very smart-looking people, I must say. Have fun, everybody.
USA! 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 President Trump surprising guests during the first White House tour of the year. 47 got that charm and easygoing vibe. No wonder his popularity keeps climbing. A whopping 52% approve of Trump's second term. He's even performing well with key groups he's struggled with at various points. Hispanics, women, and even the burbs are liking what they see. The Democrats, on the other hand, are at the most unpopular they've been in decades. They don't have a Trump, but they do have a raging case of Trump derangement syndrome. And boy, has it got him saying some really weird stuff.
You could pee on my leg, but don't tell me it's rain. And Trump is raining on America.
We are in the middle of a ketamine-fueled, middle-of-the-night, autocratic power grab.
President Trump has been more of a chaos agent over the last few weeks and not shown any interest whatsoever in dealing with the unaffordability.
It's become really hard to have an intellectual debate with any of these people because the level of stupidity that they are displaying every single day is frankly embarrassing.
Are voters having voters' remorse already?
I think so, and it's going to keep building given what he's doing. But chaos is up, corruption is up, and costs are up.
Frank Luntz is telling the Democrats maybe tone down all that resistance stuff.
The Democrats are wrong by talking about resistance because the public doesn't want resistance. They simply want these things done efficiently, effectively, and with accountability.
Do the Democrats have the humility to work with Donald Trump on things the voters want?
Not yet. We'll see. I mean, there might be a few, but they're not stepping up. And certainly, you don't even see it with governors, for example, right? The sanctuary city-states, or the sanctuary states, or the governors who might say, gosh, you know what, education is a really big issue. And I noticed today there was a big protest in Washington, D.C. Who was leading it? The American Federation of Teachers. And if I were Democrats, this would be a great moment for a Democrat to say, oh, no, you're the ones who took all the COVID money and you didn't go to school and you kept schools closed. And now you look at what's happened in our, especially in the blue states. Look what happened in the blue states. Our scores are down for our kids. This is not good enough. This is a civil rights issue of our time. And you could see somebody, I can imagine it. I can just see some Democrat figuring out a way to do this and say education is going to be the way we bring things back. But they are going to have to be willing to buck their own left wing if they were going to do that. I don't see that happening. The other thing is, like on The View, when they're talking to Amy Klobuchar, I don't know what polls they're reading that suggest that voters are getting tired. If you look at anything on immigration, crime, and maybe on the economy, people are saying, oh, what's going on here? But they do feel like the country's going in a much better direction. And when it comes to Republicans, the approval is sky high. And then you go on someplace like The View, and they're trying to apply the standards of a normal person to somebody who said, I'm not going to be a normal president. I'm there to upset the apple cart. And that's what he's doing. And the people seem to like it. So I think Frank Luntz is right. It kind of echoes what James Carville said, which is just slow your roll for a second and get your act together before you make fools of yourselves.
52%, Judge, for a Republican president, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's pretty good. And, it's 70% of the American people who say that he is following through on the promises he made. And the amazing thing, and Dana just referenced this, is the fact that women, independents, Hispanics, and Asians, and the suburbanites that he won in the election, he is maintaining them. So they're looking at President Trump and they're saying they voted for him for this reason. And by gosh, he's actually delivering on what he said he was going to do. But I think that Frank Luntz is right. James Carville is right. Stephen A. is right. You know, this resistance, this constitutional crisis, whatever it is, there is no message in this resistance. There is no policy in this resistance. It's the same old, you know, we've got to just make sure that Trump doesn't succeed. And, you know, it makes no sense when ordinary Americans have to maintain their own checkbook and their own budget, and yet the government doesn't, and we have to pay for it. That's what Americans are seeing. And, you know, for some reason, the Dems just are not getting it. And when you hear Rachel Maddow and Amy Klobuchar, when Rachel Maddow claims there's some kind of, what is it, ketamine-fueled power grab, you know, you think she's talking about Hunter Biden. And then you've got, you know, Klobuchar who talks about chaos and corruption and costs are up. She's describing the Biden years. And they've got nothing else to hang on to. Donald Trump, as we saw him greeting those people as they walked into the White House, unexpected, not expecting to see him. He's a man who's bigger than life, and he makes people feel that he cares about them when he's talking to them, and now he cares about the economy.
Harold, have you seen a Democrat, and you'd say they're doing a pretty good job kind of posting up against Donald Trump?
I'll come back to that. It's good to be back around the table with everybody. I'd say a few things. You're right. I'm not seeing enough of that.
Okay.
I think Dana's point and the judge's point, Democrats shouldn't get upset about it. We should get focused. Resistance is not what the American people want. That's just 2.0 from the campaign. Donald Trump has won the election. We shouldn't be surprised. Most presidents who win elections retain popularity for several weeks as long as they're working towards the things they said they were going to work towards. And the judge is right. He's not a conventional president. People are going to give him greater latitude when it comes to what some may define as chaos because it's Donald Trump. A poll we don't talk a lot about is the poll that Mr. Trump's own pollster, Mr. Fabrizio, has released, where he doesn't show that the president doesn't contradict any of the numbers that we showed, the 52% approval, the 70% for people liking the agenda. What he does show is that 60% of Americans worry about their personal finances. 70% worry that they won't be able to afford groceries over the next several months. 63% think that the tax relief the president's talking about should be targeted towards everyday Americans. So if you're Democrat, Jesse, you get out and you offer substance and ideas and answers around those concerns. Not simple rhetorical resistance. People don't want to hear that. Matter of fact, they rejected that argument from us in November. So let's get more serious. The press conferences, the singing, let's get that out of our system and think about coherence, alternatives, and substance. We get there, we'll make the body politic better, and you never know. We might mess around, win an election in the next year and a half.
Maybe, Greg, but you could see Donald Trump keeping this level of support for a while. I mean, you got the State of the Union coming up. You could do the Ukraine deal in the spring.
No question at all. You know, I got to hand it to Frank Luntz there. He always has the most blunt, thoughtful analysis. But I might add, you know, animals are great, not as a hairpiece. I love Trump greeting the tourists. When Biden would walk out during these White House tours, it was always by accident, and his robe was always open. This is pure Trump. So much has flipped. And it's not left versus right. It's inside and outside. So for the longest time, America has been on the outside of all politics. Only a few precious elites were on the inside. They knew how things worked. They knew where the money went. They knew who got paid, who didn't. So you have this profound transparency where this guy's everywhere, but also the spontaneity of it. Right? It has completely turned the table. So what inside is outside and what outside is inside. Isn't that great? Huh? The Americans are on the inside. Doge is leading the way with its like colonoscope, you know, showing you everything. And as it's showing you everything, you have a constant director's commentary going on, telling you what's behind the scenes. Oh, did you see this? Did you see that? Everybody on the outside, the elites, the bureaucratic rent seekers, they all got their faces planted up against the windows going, no, don't show them that. Don't show them that. That's mine. That's mine. But America is there. America loves this government enema. And we have courtside seats, which is why we should wear tarps. Okay, now I'm going to answer your question about the honeymoon.
Sure.
Honeymoons are always temporary, but I think that in this case, the length of the honeymoon is dictated by the horror that came before. You know, when someone says, you know, I really think Donald Trump is getting ahead of his skis, then you go, do you remember what was going on before? That person couldn't put on his shoes. And they go, all right, I'm good. Let the guy go to work. And what does the guy do? And we're not even surprised by it. He's ending a three-year horrific war where 1 million+ people died. And he's getting us rare earth minerals while he's ending it. And none of us are like going, well, this is a little odd. No, it's like, we finally get it. This is what he does. So let the guy do his job. Don't sit there and stand over him like, you know, you missed a spot. You know?
You know, that's such a great point. The Democrats are running a left-right campaign against a guy running an inside-out campaign. Can they run an inside-out campaign?
No, they can't.
I don't think they can.
No, they can't.
Yeah, because they're the ultimate insiders.
I don't know what that
we
means.
can. We just need a different.
You have
group.
no
We have a
inside
different-
anymore. You're
need some
empty and
alternatives.
hollow, Harold. A hollow shell of a party.
Oh, in your face, Harold.
At least I didn't vote with Russia yesterday. And you
Okay, listen. We'll get to that. Maybe. Up next, while Democrats throw a hissy fit over Musk, one of America's biggest CEOs says Doge needed to be done.
Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany, here with my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Emily Compagno. Also joining us for the first time on the couch, Caroline Downey, National Review staff writer and senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. Welcome. And David Asman, Fox Business anchor.
Not my first time.
Not your first time. All right. Well, instead of laying out a vision for America, which is what any political party should be doing, right? Democrats are trying to take down President Trump. They are vociferous in that. First, Trump was, you'll remember, a threat to democracy.
Should be clear that he is a threat to democracy.
Threat to our democracy.
Threat to our democracy.
Threats to our democracy.
Threat he poses to our democracy.
But then that threat to democracy won the presidential race. So next, Democrats declared we were on the verge of a constitutional crisis.
By definition, are we in a constitutional crisis?
Dangerously close to a constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
The constitutional crisis.
The constitutional crisis.
The constitutional crisis.
Point, but that did not stick. So Democrats threw that talking point out the window. They found a new one. Trump is chaos.
CNN's Elena Treen is at the White House with more on this chaos, confusion.
This is about causing mass chaos.
Chaos is
chaos.
Chaos.
He's unleashing chaos on the American people.
Voters appear to like this so-called chaos. Look at this. A new Harvard-Harris survey shows President Trump with a 52% approval rating. That's after his first month back in office, and that's majority support. Trump also has strong support with key voting blocs. Look at this. 45% of independents, 47% of women, 50% of Hispanics, and 50% of suburbanites all approve more than disapprove of President Trump. Not so bad for chaos. You know, Emily, when you drill down on these numbers, they're fascinating. I want to pull up just Biden-Trump comparison, okay? So just first month of Trump, last 4 years of Biden. And what you get, Trump's winning on the economy by 11, immigration by 22. I would love to meet the 34% who thinks that Biden did a better job on immigration. He's winning by 10 on foreign affairs, despite all the media criticism, by 9 on administering government, by 11 on inflation. I'll take that scorecard.
Because the reaction that the mainstream media is citing is simply their own, right? It's like when you lift up a rock and all the ants scatter and freak out. The chaos is not coming from the top. Actually, what's coming from the top is a mandate and execution of the mandate of the American people and totally clear, frankly, very concise directives that are constitutional. It's the reaction, the huffing and the puffing and the absolute freak out. And I saw this during my time as a federal attorney when simple mandates that had come from Congress, who, by the way, kept the lights on, right? Via the American people, it was the congressional apportionment of salaries and also of budget. So if all of a sudden there was a demand by Congress for an increase in productivity, you should have seen the freak out. But we need to give the best result. No, you don't. You need to pump out a Ford. You're not pumping out a Jaguar. It's time to actually do your job. And the fact that the lockstep verbal language is so clear and undeviating and it's changing by the week, well, then that just goes to show you what utter trash this response is.
James Carville has an idea. It's an interesting idea. He's calling for retreat. Listen. So we don't have the sound here, but we do have the text. So we'll read it to you. Only until the Trump administration has spiraled into the low 40s or high 30s in public approval polling, percentages should we make like a pack of hyenas and go for the jugular. Until then, I'm calling for a strategic political retreat with no clear leader. It's time for Democrats to embark on the most daring political maneuver in the history of our party, roll over and play dead. Problem for Mr. Carville, who, by the way, everyone kind of hails him as some huge political mind, except he was all in for Kamala Harris to the end. Now he calls her, I think, the 7th-string quarterback. Interesting. He's going to be waiting a long time, David. When you look at the numbers, 81% in favor of Trump deporting illegal immigrants, 76% on finding fraud and abuse, 69% on banning biological men and girls sports. I mean, look at these. It is hard for any politician to get to 50. These are the Trump policies.
Well, Emily mentioned the ant scattering. I think ants have a lot more common sense than either the Democrats who are screaming Carville or their echo chamber in the media. That's really what's extra. Remember, Rush Limbaugh used to say years ago, he used to talk about how the symbiosis between the media echo chamber and the Democrats. Now it's begun to catch up with those in the media who are word the echo chamber. They're not quite as reliable. Some of them are getting fired. Some of them are being laid off. Some of them are being told to stand back because at least they realize there's some kind of feedback between advertising dollars and what's happening on air. There's no feedback for the Democrats. They only have one message, and that message didn't work, as you said, during the election, clearly didn't work, but I don't think they're getting the kind of reaction that they were hoping to get from either the general public, which the numbers are clear, aren't reacting to what they're saying at all. In fact, maybe they're being pushed even more to the right by what they're hearing from the Democrats. But even the media now is beginning to give another look. The legacy media that had always been the echo
execs
chamber
are,
for them.
because they're looking at that bottom line.
They're looking at the advertising dollars, and it doesn't add up.
Harris, this is my favorite number that I found, and it's when you compare Democrats by name and Republicans by name, because we've heard so much about Elon Musk and demonizing of him and how bad he is. And despite all the negative publicity, what you see is Trump is +7 in the polling, RFK +9, Vance +4, Elon is even, Kamala's -14, Biden -24, AOC -14, Schumer -18.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Actually, when James Carville, and you were reading what he said, when you said Democrats need a retreat, I thought you meant like a spa weekend.
Retreat?
I didn't know that you meant step back and just let them cook. They're cooking up everything, and if you wait too long, when will the Democrats ever be able to re-engage substantively, because they're losing their audience, literally.
Yep.
So on the point of what they do going next, first of all, shouting more woke and all the things that don't work won't do it. So I don't know who they're selling their stuff to, but it's the wrong stuff. And James Carville can say all he wants, but they need a new leader. Who is that person? It's not even Hakeem Jeffries. Yep. He was asked that question. I mean, he's the ranking member in the House, was asked that question a couple of weeks ago, and he didn't say, yes, I'm the new brand of leader, and here are my ideas, and I hope that they back me, and I hope that they can let me help them go. No, he didn't say that. They don't know. He didn't take that role. Well, who is it going to be? Otherwise, it's a bunch of people shouting their own ideas at each other. It is a pure mirror fest at this point.
I think that's the million-dollar question, Caroline, and welcome. We're so happy to have you, is who's it going to be and what are they going to do? I mean, voters are clear. If I were Democrats, if I were the DNC, I'd sit down and say, what are voters telling us to do? Well, to the tune of 66%, they're saying, listen to what we have to say about Trump and then act. And they're even saying, to the tune of 66% again, get on board with cutting spending.
Yes.
That sounds like Doge.
Yes. And voters rejected the status quo, which included cleaning house in the government. And, if there is chaos, it's good, organized chaos. Trump is being extremely methodical about undoing the Democrats' chaos. He's draining the swamp, because the swamp for the longest time was allowed to just sit and enjoy itself and, run the taxpayers dry. And now it's getting a shakeup for the first time in a long time. And what about the Democrats' subversive chaos? Chaos is allowing an unprecedented number of illegal aliens into this country to strain our social services and cause crime that otherwise would have never been created. Chaos is when the culture is split on the definition of what a woman is because of dictates from the Biden administration. Chaos is when we're allowing permanent patients with gender confusion into the U.S. military, okay, on taxpayer dime. This is all chaos. This is the real chaos that the administration of the last 4 years was peddling and that the people rejected unequivocally at the ballot box.
I love what you did there. You took the chaos talking point and you turned it on its head, and you're exactly right. About half of voters said we think they left the border open intentionally. Half of voters think that about Democrats. Not good. We're getting new video of a nice moment at the White House. The White House tours are officially underway. As you'll remember, First Lady Melania Trump announced their return following the transition of power. We're getting new video of this moment. It was during the first official White House tour of the year. President Trump stopping by to say hello.
But I want to thank you very much for coming. The tour is so great. We did such a good job. First Lady worked very hard in making it perfect, and I think you're going to really love it. And I heard you were here, and I said, let's stop by and say hello. And it's a group of very smart-looking people, I must say. Very smart. Maybe someday you'll be here as the president, right? Somebody in this group has a chance. Have a good time. Have a great tour. And you're going to give them a special tour, okay? You're going to get a special tour. Have fun, everybody.
Treat for them.
Yeah, what a treat. It looks like they're right beneath the White House residence. And what a special moment to get to tour the West Wing, to get to tour the White House. That's, after all, the people's house.
All right, it's now time for our Hannity Washington briefing. We welcome back White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is with us. You know, the AP deal is a big deal to me. And this, frankly, you have reconfigured that room quite a bit. And you've invited in bloggers and invited in other media that traditionally have not been there. But I would go back and say that most of the mainstream legacy media, they were wrong on FISA, they were wrong on Russia, they were wrong on the case in New York, they were wrong on pretty much everything involving Donald Trump, and they never corrected themselves, did they?
They never did, Sean, and the winning continues here at the White House every day. Today, a federal judge right here in Washington, D.C., denied the Associated Press's emergency request for a temporary restraining order to restore their privilege of returning to the White House press pool. And the judge's denial of the Associated Press's request reinforces what I said from the podium last week and what President Trump has been saying. Covering the American presidency in the most intimate and limited spaces in this White House, in the Oval Office, on the Air Force One, is a privilege. It is not a legal right. And we want all voices to have that opportunity. And that's why we've expanded the James S. Brady briefing room to invite truly legitimate, independent journalists, podcasters, and other media types into that room to cover this president with honesty and accuracy and with real mindfulness of what the American people actually care about. I also want to thank you tonight, Sean, for fact-checking James Carville for the lies that he pushed on your program last week. Unfortunately, James represents the deranged and out-of-touch Democrat Party who continue to deny the reality that this country loves Donald Trump. And in fact, President Trump is enjoying his highest approval rating from the American people than he ever has, despite the years of lies, smears, and witch hunts by the Democrat Party. The Harvard-Harris poll today is incredible. When you look issue by issue, the vast majority of the American people support what President Trump is doing. You showed it. 81% of the American people support deporting illegal migrant criminals from our nation's communities. 77% of Americans support a full audit into the waste and fraud that this federal government has been spending their tax dollars on. And that is the exact mission of DOGE. So these numbers, these approval ratings are what you get when you have a president who actually does what he promised he was going to do. And that's why the Democrats are facing their worst, lowest approval rating since 2018. Not even 40% of the American public supports the current Democrat Party. President Trump will continue to abide by the will of the American people who elected him to this big, beautiful White House behind me. And we are restoring common sense to our great country.
You know, I just showed this audience Harvard, Harris, and where they stand on DOGE and cutting back wasteful spending. I showed CBS. All weekend long, if you look at CBS, they're not even looking at their own poll. The New York Times, USA Today, MSDNC, The Washington Post, CNN, fake news, Huffington Post, Newsweek, they all had some version. GOP lawmaker confronted by constituents angry with the Trump must cuts. It is contradicted, Caroline, by their own polls. And we're not talking about 55%, 78, 80% of the American people don't want they don't want their money spent this way, and they don't want their children and grandchildren robbed this way. And this is what Democrats call a constitutional crisis, and this is what the media falsely reports on. It's difficult to penetrate through that wall of, you know, frankly, propaganda and lies.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of lies from the left, especially from the Democrat Party. And as you said, they're propagandists and the left-wing legacy media. But the president and our administration are cutting through those lies every single day with a mega level of access and transparency to the commander-in-chief. Nearly every single day, President Trump invites journalists into the Oval Office and gives them the facts and the truth because he has that on his side. And he is doing so much, accomplishing so much, that the mainstream media can't even cover it all. I mean, today we had a major announcement on a Monday morning that Apple, one of the biggest companies in this world, is going to invest $500 billion right here in the United States of America and create 20,000 new jobs. America is open for business again because of the policies and the confidence that has been restored across this world because of President Trump being behind the resolute desk. And I just saw President Trump's statement, in case your audience has it, from a few moments ago. He says our country is doing very well, and he was just thinking about the company that was shooed away and canceled by the Biden administration who wanted to build the Keystone XL pipeline. He is inviting them back. We want the Keystone XL pipeline built. He wants a pipeline built in the Northeast, in New England, where I am from, where we have some of the highest electricity and utility rates in the country. This is a president who is constantly thinking about how he can help the American people, innovating and pushing groundbreaking ideas on every single issue. And that's, again, why the vast majority of Americans are seeing through the mainstream media and the Democrat Party's lies, because they are seeing real results come from this administration every single day.
Last question. How quickly do you think or anticipate the president will meet with President Zelensky and President Putin?
We expect those meetings to take place very soon, especially the meeting with President Zelensky. And as the president expressed today, he wants the critical minerals and rare earths deal signed. It is going to recoup American tax dollars for the hundreds of billions of dollars that we have paid for Ukraine's national defense. He expects President Zelensky to sign that deal. It's only right, considering what the American taxpayers have done for Ukraine. If it were not for the American people, Ukraine wouldn't be a country anymore. President Trump knows that, and he's getting the American people what they deserve.
Well, and also will help them to have our partnership and us on the ground.
That's right.
Helping them, you know, that'll give them money to rebuild their country, which is a disaster right now. And the killing does have to end. Caroline Levitt, we appreciate it. The White House briefing with Caroline.
The people have given us a resounding mandate for dramatic change in Washington, and we are going to deliver it. We're going to use it, and we're going to make America great again by using it.
President Trump pointing out his mandate for change after a decisive election victory, and young voters were a part of the coalition driving him into office, sending a strong message to Democrats who once relied fully on their support. Now, over a month in office, how are they feeling about the decision? Joining us now, Macy Gunnell is a junior at St. Mary's College and press secretary of the National College Republicans, and Leo Kerner is a junior at Harvard and president of Harvard College Republicans. Macy, let me start with you. We had this from the Wall Street Journal, the headline that caught our attention about just a couple weeks ago. The rise of young Republicans on America's college campuses. College conservatism hasn't gone mainstream on left-leaning campuses, but the stigma against Republicans is lifting. Has that been your experience at St. Mary's?
Yes, what I can definitely tell you is that President Trump is working at breakneck speed to restore American prosperity, not just for our nation now, but for generations to come. And even at St. Mary's, at a very left-wing college, our numbers have never been higher here at College Republicans of America. We are excited about President Trump's agenda, and we are sick of the anti-American left ideals that the left is pushing today. We saw that in the past election with a 17-point gain from Gen Z to the right. We want a prosperous future in a country that we can be proud of. And that comes with President Trump delivering on his promises, so we applaud him for doing exactly that.
One of the things that you dealt with was that at St. Mary's College, which is a women's Catholic school, they tried to admit transgender women. You were somebody who fought against that, transgender men, I should say. How has that affected you at the school, if at all?
Right, so that has definitely been an amazing situation. We were able to get the policy reversed. That was over a year ago. But we are seeing this revival, this right-wing revival, not just at St. Mary's, but at schools across the nation. The Republican Party and these conservative ideals are the party of success. And young Americans at St. Mary's and everywhere are excited to latch on to that.
Okay, Leo, let me turn to you, because sometimes I think people would say the Republican Club at Harvard must be about 3 people, but I'm sure that isn't true, especially then you are there at the helm of it. What's it been like for you since the election?
Yeah, I mean, I think the situation at Harvard has actually never been better in recent years. In 2016, we did not endorse the president. 2020 was a qualified endorsement, but in 2024, it was a full endorsement. I think a lot of people are coming out, the silent minority on campus are realizing the common sense policies. I think particularly the young people are getting a lot more MAGA. And, Harvard's broken. We all know this. But as Newman said of the church in England, it died, but it will live again. Harvard probably has died, but it will live again. We built new institutions without Harvard's help, and new leaders will come out of it. We're a great institution. We created great leaders, presidents, and I think there can be a real resurgence of Harvard on the national level.
Let me ask this last question to both of you. I'll give you a chance to answer first, Leo. What, in your mind, is something that President Trump must do in order to keep new young Republicans' support? Leo, go first.
I think really clearing out the bureaucracy and allowing young Americans to join the admin and to help our country move forward. We've had these people who've been in for so long, and they need to go, and new people.
All right, Macy?
Yes, President Trump and his administration are already champions for Gen Z in our future, from attacking illegal immigration to protecting women and girls like me to finally putting American interests first. This is something we haven't seen in the past 4 years. I mean, imagine if Kamala Harris was president. We'd be beginning our decline into a socialist, borderless nation. So we need President Trump to keep pushing forward. We need him and his team to keep pushing these dynamic executive actions, because the future is in his hands. And rest assured, the college puppets of America are right there behind him.
All right, you two get back to class. Let me know if you need a note. I'll send one. Thanks so much, guys.
I want to welcome now Steve Scalise, Republican Congressman of Louisiana and House Majority Leader, to The Focus. Good to see you. I want to start here because, as you may have been able to hear from the sound bites we ran, really understanding for our viewers, when the left uses the talking points of tax cuts making the rich richer, what do you say? People want to know, well, is that true? If it's not, what is the truth?
Well, good morning, Harrison. And it's sad that the Democrat Party is once again resorting just to lying. I mean, we saw this during the campaign. They use this same rhetoric, it's all about the rich, tax cuts for the rich, all that. None of it was true then. None of it's true now. Look at the bill. What the Democrats are going to be voting against, and make no mistake, every Democrat will vote no tonight on this bill. The Democrats voting no, if this bill were not to pass, would impose a tax increase, Harris, on over 130 million Americans who make less than $1 million, far less than $1 million. It's the middle class and lower middle income people that would get kicked in the gut if we don't renew the tax cuts from 2017. Democrat Party doesn't care about those people. They want them to get a tax hike. The rich, the millionaires and billionaires, look, Trump talked about the whole campaign. No tax on tips. Remember that? That was a promise he made everywhere. We're delivering on that. Last time I checked, Harris, Elon Musk does not work for tips. Billionaires don't work for tips. You know who does? Millions of Americans work for tips, and the average pay of those millions of Americans that will benefit from our bill, $32,000 a year is the average pay. You know what Democrats are saying to those people? They want to stick 87,000 more IRS agents on those people making $32,000 a year on average, those millions of families who are working hard. So let's be clear about who benefits from this bill, but most importantly, who gets hurt if this does not pass. If this doesn't pass, the middle class of America will get a massive tax increase. Every small business owner in America, you got a mom and pop shop on Main Street with 10 employees, they will jump up to a 43% tax rate when the big multinational corporation, the billionaires, pay a 21% tax rate. That's current law. So 21 versus 43 for your small businesses, that will crush small businesses in America. That's what Democrats want. And they're going to hold a rally for that. That's why they lost the election and they still don't get it. President Trump's fighting for working families. The House bill delivers on the mandate we got. And the Democrats are still using the same tired, false rhetoric. And the American people aren't buying it anymore.
Those numbers are so critical. Thank you for breaking it down like that. When you said no tax on tips, I bet there were some people who leaned in and turned up the volume.
Millions of people, by the way, and their average
that.
pay is $32,000.
Wow.
They hide behind the millionaires and billionaires to try to soak the middle class with higher taxes. That's what Democrats want. They've always done it. We want to keep those rates lower on those hardworking families. That's what our bill delivers.
Well, your colleague, Congressman Arrington, who chairs the House Budget Committee, wrote an op-ed published today, and here's part of it. What is the single largest driver of this crisis? Automatic, unchecked, mandatory spending. Democrats are trying to scare the nation by casting aspersions on DOGE as if the boogeyman is coming for obligated benefits. If we fail to meet this moment, we risk a full-scale sovereign debt crisis, trapping us in a vicious cycle of economic and fiscal decline. Your reaction to that?
Chairman Arrington is spot on, and he's been beating this drum for a long time, talking about reversing the curse. The curse being the massive debt that's thrown upon our country that's driving high inflation, high interest rates, the things the American people want us to reverse. You know, the Democrats did it with all of their massive spending. When President Biden and Kamala Harris did the trillion-dollar spending bills over and over again, everybody in America knows that's what created all the massive inflation we are trying to reverse now. How do you do it? Look, Elon Musk has been uncovering so much fraud. $2 billion he just uncovered going to Stacey Abrams' group, a pure political payoff. Her organization had literally taken in just $100 the year before, and then they win a $2 billion contract from the federal government. It wasn't, by the way, that wasn't a competitively bid contract. It was a payoff to their friends that Biden just handed over for no reason. They're not going to deliver any results for American people. It's a payoff to their friends. People are disgusted by that form of cronyism in Washington. Elon's exposing it. So, yeah, they're furious.
Yeah, they're
Democrats are furious that we're exposing their waste. And we're going to keep exposing the waste, Harris, and give that money back to the people in the form of lower inflation, lower taxes, and lower interest rates where they can actually control their own destiny and restore the American dream in this country that's been under attack.
All right, real quickly, do you think you'll lose everybody? Do you have all Republicans together?
Yeah, like I said, every Democrat will vote no, and it's sad because they're all voting against middle-class, hardworking families. We're united. You know, we're still working till the last minute to get the votes, but we have to get this done. Failure's not an option, Harris.
House Majority Leader Steve Scalise from the great state of Louisiana, which I saw yesterday. Thank you, sir. Good to see you.
Great being with you. Thanks.